Good evenings, good evenings, good evenings, Cape Stories. Hope het gaan goed saam met julle. Hope julle is okay. Tonight, myself and Sadri Dewan will be hosting a very difficult topic. It's something that many people don't want to participate in, but I got some people that wants to talk in and wants, we want to do it in a civil way. And there's the questions. If you guys want to ask questions, you are welcome to do so. I think the nice thing with technology and the nice thing about networking is that we can do things in civil matters, in civil ways. We don't have to fight, but we need to respect one another's opinion. It's very important. And I don't want to come across. I know you guys like to crucify me on Facebook. I don't want to come across bias. So we will ask the questions, your questions, and also remember we can't ask all the questions. There will probably be 1,000 questions tonight, but some of them we will ask. Ridwan side, welcome. Thank you for joining me, taking on this difficult journey. But we're going to talk about what needs to be talking about.
I hope everyone has a good evening and we can all enjoy this discussion where we can see the reality come to the front.
So I'm going to add our panel tonight. I've got Neil de Beer that is joining us. I've got Advocate Sanima joining us. I've got Umbiza joining us. We've got Yusuf joining us. And then we have Kasim Parker joining us. Also, Amir Adams is joining us tonight. Dr. Jerome Schwartz is also joining us. Anwar Adams is joining us. So we've got the full house. And Aslam Kasim joining us. Good evenings, everybody. Hope that you guys are well. I'm just struggling to add Kasim. Arun is joining us. Okay, so we're going to have to add them. We won't be able to add them because they're 10 already. So as soon as somebody's done, we can just add them. Okay, so I'm going to give over to Said to ask the first question, and then we take it from there.
Good evening. Hope everybody is well. I think we could start with Shamima, since you were on early as well, with Neil and Yusuf. So if we can just check, let's go with Yusuf. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So Yusuf, today you're representing the city here on Cape Flat Stories. So we have one question for you to start off with. What is your stance on the ongoing situation between Israel and Palestine?
Well, it's a little weird that I'm here representing the city of Cape Town because I'm not the only councillor of the city of Cape Town here. So, but I am the only DA councillor here until Aslam Kasim joins us. So let's just, if we can put that out there. What I can do is the city itself doesn't have a stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but the DA does have a stance on that. The DA's stance is the cessation of hostilities, the right of return for Palestinians, the Article 51 of the Geneva Convention that prohibits carpet bombings and of areas where civilians concentrated in. It's the
Yusuf, before you go on, as you say, you're here on behalf of the DA. When we got communication from the mayor's office that you'll be representing the city.
Okay. Well, the city itself doesn't have a stance per se because, as an administration, it doesn't represent an international body. Remember, we're local government. If you were looking for a sphere of government to have a stance, it would have to be national government because they do international relations and so forth. So the city itself doesn't necessarily have a position on the conflict, but us as politicians do.
Okay, and what's your position?
My position is exactly as my party's position. We want the right of return for Palestinians. We want a cease to hostilities. We want a two-state solution. We want a international law to be upheld in conflict. We don't want carpet bombing of entire neighborhoods, which is considered a war crime. And that is the position in a nutshell.
So, do you currently believe what's happening, what the IDF is doing to Gaza, is a war crime?
I believe carpet bombing is a war crime.
No, no. Just to
Carpet
answer
bombing
my
of
question
areas.
directly, what
Sorry,
the IDF is currently doing in Gaza, do you believe that to be a war crime?
if the IDF, which it is, carpet bombing areas with high concentrations of civilians is a war crime and should be investigated, and those responsible should be held accountable.
Okay, let's go on to thanks for that, Yusuf. Shamima, can we get your stance on the ongoing situation?
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to everybody, to all the listeners. Shukran for having us here. It is a difficult topic indeed, especially for many of us who's directly involved in assisting the people of Palestine and of Gaza. For me and for us, our stance at Al Jama is quite clear. It's not a conflict. It's not a war. It's a genocide. It is a genocide has been committed since 1948, and we cannot mince our words about it and hide behind political party feelings, etc. Because right now people are being bombed, they're being killed, they're being massacred. Children has been incarcerated for many, many years. Women and children without detention, without trial. The injustice is continuing. War crimes is continuing with the people of Palestine and Gaza. Heard my colleague noting about the situation with his political party and the two-state solution. Now, I just want to put it straight out. Al Jama does not stand for the two-state solution because we know it's a farce. It has been used for decades in order to pacify the Palestinians into a full sense of security, while the Zionist unlawful occupiers has continuously stolen land, property, commit atrocities in the name of a two-state solution. At a time when decisions has to be made, it will have to be the decisions of the people of Palestine, the rightful owners of the land of Palestine. So our position is quite clear that this is a genocide that's happening, these atrocities, it's war crimes, and that all responsible needs to be investigated and prosecuted accordingly. Shukran.
So, Shamima, I take from this that Al Jama's stance is that Israel is on the wrong here and Palestine is right.
Well, it is quite clear who the unlawful occupier is. I don't think that there's any secret about that as to how long the genocide has been continuing. And I don't think that the unlawful occupiers is the only guilty party in this whole situation. You also have the leaders of several countries who has been party to the atrocities that we have witnessed over decades.
Okay. Thanks, Shamima. Stan, I give over to you.
Thank you so much. I just have a question for Haroon and for Kasim Parker. Over the weekend, you guys were in George, and Abdul Salam made a statement that many people wants to know the stance of PAGAD, where Abdus actually said one bullet for the PA, one bullet for the DA. Can you just give us more clarity on it? Because we know when PAGAD says a bullet for the merchant, we know what I mean. But in this case, PAGAD has made it very clear that one bullet for the PA and for the DA as well. I just want to clarify that for a few of our listeners tonight, Harun or Mr. Parker.
Aaron, I think you're going to go. I'm sure both of us are eager to do it, but I'll give Aaron the first shot.
Yeah. Okay. Evening, and thanks, Brother Stan, for the question. Very relevant question and didn't come as a surprise. We expected the question, though. I think things needs to be understood in its context. PA and the DA didn't make any excuses for the support to the Zionist state of Israel. And I'm sure many other political parties has the same position. And when political parties and individuals, for that matter, take a position that they support a Zionist state and an apartheid state like Israel, we say that when the statement is made in this context of one, we say PA, and the question is death to the PA or death to the DA, we're saying that for what it stands for the policies they are bringing forth, this is what we're saying. And the same when we say death to Zionism, we say that the concept and the principle of Zionism and apartheid Israel, it's in its same context. that we say that the concept and the ideology that they bring forth, that is what we are saying. We have to eradicate that particular ideology and concept of thinking within the people, because if we're going to allow people to propagate and propagate false narratives about the current status in the Middle East, then it's obvious that their policies are dictating to them, and we hope that it's not them as individuals, but merely their policies that dictate to them that they need to support an apartheid state. I hope that gives some clarity. If you need more, I'm welcome to carry on, but I don't want to take too much time up, Ronstan.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. I just want to hear from Mbiza his point of view, just to ask him, does he agree with that? Because the statement is directed at your party, the Patriotic Alliance. I know that Gaitlin made it very clear he stands with Israel and Kenny Kreneni as well. But also the other thing that maybe we need to also, you can maybe explain to us, people within your party are with Palestine. Isn't that a bit of a problem where you have half of your party believing in Palestine and the other believing in Israel? What is your point on that? Okay, you need to unmute yourself. Mbiza. There we go, perfect.
Thank you, Stanley, and greetings once again to the colleagues on the platform and to your viewers, to our Christian viewers, in the name of our Lord and Savior, our Muslim viewers, Assalamu alaikum. On the issue of our party's position of having a stance with Israel and another part of our party having a stance with Palestine, it's exactly because our party's geopolitical stance is that we are peacemakers. And if you're going to be peacemakers, you're going to have to be able to have people express their views. You should be able to listen to somebody else's views and then ask yourself, what do we stand for as one? And in the Patriotic Alliance, that's really a model that I think our country should use. That whether Christian or Muslim in the Patriotic Alliance, we all understand that we have different views, but we are one. So to stand with Israel on the position of Israel as a state must defend itself against Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. And then you have, on the other hand, our Muslim patriots that says, no, but Hamas is not a terrorist organization, but Hamas is like a revolutionary organization that is fighting against oppression. You look at both these views and ask yourself, all right, we call it the 6-9 model, where if I put a 6 in front of you, the one sitting on the one side will see a 6, the other will see a 9. Which one is wrong? Neither one is wrong. So now you ask yourself, in our party, what do we stand for together? We stand for together for peace in the Middle East. We want to see a scenario where there is no innocent life of babies, women, men that are living in Palestine, Palestinian lives, innocent lives. We don't want to see innocent Palestinian lives shed through this war. Equally so, we don't want to see innocent lives of Israeli being lost. So as a party, we stand together as Muslims and as Christians. And we are saying, even though we are standing with the two parties separately, but what do we stand for? The fact that you stand with Israel because of our faith, like for example, I am a Christian, our president is a Christian, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm emphatic about my belief, just like a Muslim in our party is emphatic about their belief, and the stance is influenced in that way, that we would say as a believer in the Bible that I will not curse Israel. The that curses
Mbiza, can I stop you there while you're talking?
May I just finish my point, and then you can.
Okay, go on.
When you curse Israel, you shall be cursed. But that does not mean that if I say I stand with Israel, I will not curse Israel, it does not mean that I'm for the killing of innocent lives, and neither does it mean that Israel is blameless. Equally so on the other side, it doesn't mean that Hamas is blameless. So what are we saying? The war is not an answer for both sides. We need peace. Palestinian lives cannot be lost. Innocent Palestinian babies cannot die. Innocent Israeli babies cannot die. Therefore, as a party, we are calling for peace. Christians in our party and Muslims within our party, we are saying we're standing as one for everyone in the Middle East. We want peace. And the only way that's going to happen is...
Thank you, Ambeza. We're going to have to cut you off. But I just wanted to find out that you're making this something Christian and Muslim, like Christians support Israel and Muslims support Palestine. And I don't think that's the case, number one. Number two is you mentioning of Hamas. Hamas is only coming out now. Are we going to speak about what happened since 1948?
You know,
or are we only looking now in this past days?
Firstly, I responded to the question that was posed to me around our party. If the question was general, I would have spoken about it differently. I responded to the question by Stanley that said, in our party, one part, which is Christian, stands with Israel. The other, which is Muslim, stands with Palestine. And we are saying we have no problem with...
So your party is divided in that case, as
we
Christians
are not
and Muslims.
I just explained that. I'm sure that you heard what I said when I said in our party, that should be a model for this country, that we can have different views. But what do we stand for as one? As one party, both Muslim and Christian. We stand
I think, Ambeza, that sounds rather contradictory, like saying that we support apartheid and we don't support apartheid and we're standing together, because if you don't stand for something, you're standing for nothing.
No, you see, the reason why you would say that is because you want an either or. Now we are saying what we side with is peace. We want peace. Both Muslims in the PA and Christians in the PA wants to see peace in the Middle East. We're not going to have this thing divide us. We stand together to see peace and not war. And then about your question around Hamas only coming now, and you want us to go back to just recent. I mean, I can take you further back. Even right up to 722 BC. I can take you to 598 BC if you want to go back into history with what happened to ancient Israel. But that's not what we are talking about now. What we are saying is...
we will call you on the next show for that, definitely.
Excuse me?
But now I got one more question for you, Ambeza. Do you believe that Israel's policies towards Palestinians resemble the apartheid?
My president has made it very clear. And before I answer, I would also like to caution you that you've invited me on the platform. If I respond, allow me to respond fully. Don't interject, and then ask the question. Because clearly it comes across that you disagree with me, which is fine, but allow me to finish. So on the
it's not actually disagreeing with you. We actually put rules on the group before with all the speakers to say that we will be posing questions and you answer, and if you don't digress and don't keep it very much just concise.
I was very concise. You interjected again and I wanted to answer. So you're going to have to decide whether you're going to allow me to answer or not.
You go ahead and answer. I give you 1 minute to answer.
And I hope you apply the same principle to everyone, because there wasn't time given. We were told that we were able to express ourselves and we must do that directly.
Obviously, due to time constraints, with 10 participants, it will be difficult to let everyone speak for 15 minutes.
That's if you allow me to finish. If you don't interject,
go ahead, Ambeza.
So my president has made it very clear that when he visited Israel, he does not believe that it is apartheid. He did not say that it does not mean that there is no atrocities or there's no violations. He says what South Africans knows as apartheid is not what he saw there. He didn't go there and there was toilets for this one and not toilets for that one. He didn't go there and there were separate places where people can go to. And that's the definition of apartheid here in South Africa. So when our president, His Excellency Gayton McKenzie made that statement, he was saying that what he saw in Israel is not apartheid as we know it, but he was not making that statement to relegate some of the wrongs that are happening there or justify. So the answer is no.
Thank you, Mbiza. Before we go to Dr. Jerome Swartz, I just have one last more question for you, Mbiza. We are a full house, so we have a lot of other guests as well. We know that the DA gets funding from Israel. That has been established. Does the PA also get funding from Israel? Because we have seen a change in the PA after President Gayton went to Israel. Things are different. There was no, before he went to PA, there was no talks about Israel and Palestine. But when he came back, he fully supported Israel. So are your party being funded or getting donations from Israel?
Emphatic no, and you can go research that. When we hold the view, that's the nature of my president. When he first went to Orania before he created a view for himself about Orania. He went to Israel before he created a view. So his view is based on conviction and not being funded. And you can go check that out. So the answer is an emphatic no. We are based on principle. Therefore, we can have in the same party, our Muslim councillors can stand in a council sitting and say free Palestine, and we support that. Our Christian councillors can say that they stand with Israel, and we support that. What is our one message? What is our geopolitical stance? We want peace in the Middle East for both Israelis and Palestinians. No one should die. The dying should stop.
Thank you, Mbiza. Thank you for indulging with us. Dr. Jerome Swartz, over to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. As the president of ARA, my question to you would be, what is your stance? What is your feeling around about the Palestine and Israel situation? Are your party standing with Palestine? Are your party supporting Israel? And where do you see this going?
Good evening. I hope you can hear me. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you 100%.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, there was just a bit of quite a number of internet interference. I do apologize. I didn't read your rules, but I want to say this to you, to all the participants. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Thank you for your co-host for having us on. Firstly, ARA does not, this is our belief, and this is what we stand for, is South Africa first. And I don't have our logo behind me, but that's our stand. SA first, nothing else becomes before SA. I know a lot of people have even took that logo and made it their own. Think some parties as well. So think at least they see the light. No, so we do not stand with, when we say SA first, what we mean is this, that we have a crisis in South Africa. We are not running for government for Palestine, for Lebanon, for India, for Israel, or for America. We're running for government in South Africa. And that's straightforward, first of all. So then secondly, if we're going to deal with international aspects now from our point, if we have two houses and one house you own and both is collapsing, which house are you going to say first? Your own or the house next door that's collapsing? South Africa is in a crisis. We're in a mess. South Africa is going down the drain. We also feel, on the other note, we do feel, and our prayers are with all those involved in the conflict. And by no means do we condone any conflict, any war in whatever country. But South Africa, it's a sad point that when Africa goes to the UN, nobody listens to Africa. Whether Africa feels they're irrelevant or not, internationally they are not relevant. And that is a sad situation. We got a problem in South Africa, combined population, if you want to talk about what's happening in Palestine, combined population, our employment is close to 8 million. If you're talking about crime in the rest of the world, I just want to give you something that according to the world stats, in Palestine, Palestine, and please, I don't want to make this a comparison, but the issue here is here. In South Africa, we got 1,786 people dying. This is the rates. This is dying per day. This is the World Population Review. This is not something I'm making up. You've got how joblessness is something like 40, close to even 50% in South Africa. South Africa is in a mess. We're going down quickly. We will not be a country to be able to help anybody internationally. Our currency is in a mess. Our lights are in a mess. We got a food crisis. We cannot grow crops. We cannot. It's a sad situation in South Africa. Our notion is as SA first, completely SA first. We got to put SA first at this moment.
Okay.
We got to remove corrupt leaders. So that's from our side.
Yeah.
How are you, Mr. Swartz? I have a question for you. When you saying that we should worry of South Africa, are you indirectly saying that we shouldn't worry about the injustices that's happening across the world? Or should we not stand up in support of apartheid and these type of genocides that are taking place?
Okay, let me answer you on that one. I think the topic is the Middle East. Let's look at Bahrain, Cyprus, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, the 17 nations. Okay, you take something
I
like,
think
you take a
on this
nation like
topic,
Syria
we're
that's in a mess.
specifically focusing on Palestine and Israel.
I understand what your question is. That your question is too limited. Just because the world is making an issue regarding Palestine and Israel, doesn't mean South Africa must now focus on Israel. What about Ukraine war? What about
Does your
the
party
Yemen
don't see
issue?
it
What about
as a
Iraq?
genocide or is it what's happening there?
I can't hear you.
I say, does your party
Are-
not
are you- can you hear
recognize
me?
what's happening between Israel and Palestine as a genocide? Do you not see that people are being killed, murdered, bombed, hospitals, schools, mosques, churches?
It's a good question. Don't you think it's a genocide in South Africa? Don't we think we have a crisis in South Africa? If we have every 8 seconds a woman being abused, being raped, being murdered, is there a problem in South Africa or not? Whose problem
No,
is greater?
we're not denying a
South
problem in South Africa,
How many
but what
children
we're
are
asking,
being killed?
I think
No,
we can't even compare.
issue
Our
is simple.
problems are the smallest
It's SA
compared
first.
to what's happening there. So the question is, do we stand up for human rights, or we just worry of gender-based violence in our country and worry of animal cruelty, or do we stand up for other fellow humans that are being bombed daily?
I think your question should be rephrased. I don't think we got animal problems. We got people problems. People behaving like animals in South Africa. You know, I don't want to become personal that aspect, but your question you're asking me is to take a side in who is right, who is not right. This subject,
No,
we have blatantly
I
say
think you
SA
misunderstood
first.
the question. The question is, do we stand up for human rights or not? The atrocities that are happening overseas, we see visuals every day.
It's a sad point we don't see regional Africans every day. Human rights issues in South Africa. How many gangsters or how is gangsterism affecting South Africa? I can go on and tell you about the stats in South Africa and the mess we have in South Africa. We got guys running around like it's a war in South Africa with guns and weapons. You're telling me about human rights. You tell me genocide. Do you know how the population are dying in South Africa? We got something like 1,786 people dying per day in South Africa. Is that not worse?
No, but I think I say we
Why
got two
is it
members
that
of
we
PAGAD on
confuse-
here. Maybe they must come in with you and see what we can do about the gangsterism and those type of things. What you're bringing up here in
No,
this
it's not
show.
gangsterism. It's not just gangsterism. So you're diffusing the situation. We got 1,786 people dying in South Africa per day. Every 8 seconds, a woman is abused, is either sexually molested. And that's the stats that South Africans give us. Our police record over the 3 months, 2023, over 3 months, I think it's April, August, this is 3 months, April, May, and June.
Okay, we
You're talking
do
about almost
what's happening in South
400,000.
Africa. Mr. Swans, what we want to know is, do you believe that Israel's policies towards Palestinians resemble apartheid?
Our issue again, we believe that the Palestinians, in as much they are wrong, we believe also Israel in as much they are wrong. Now, 2 houses are collapsing. Which house do you deal with first? Your own house or your next door neighbor's house? We cannot, we do not, it is a sad situation that that SA does not look and deal with these issues first. It's actually fact an embarrassment. Let's talk about the ambassador we removed from Israel. We cannot go to Israel. Those who want to go, I've got no desire to go to Israel. I've got no desire to go to the United States, neither India. SA is first on our list completely. When you remove the ambassador, the consequences is so dire. If you want to travel to Palestine, you got to go through Egypt now. You cannot go through to Israel any longer. Our feet on the ground, our eyes on the ground of what is happening in Israel and Palestine is removed. Israel, you can, let me just maybe touch on these aspects, because we don't understand how the effect is that SA must be taken first in the context of its governance. Removing Israel, they only spend what, $2.5 billion in this country. That is like so small compared to, it's small. The government has to do much more than we possibly could think. So in this context, the environment we are in, SA is first.
I don't want to cut you short, but I take it that you are pro-South Africa and blinkers are here, limited to South Africa, and that's it.
I think what Doc is saying, if I read him right, yes, he's worried about overseas, what's happening overseas, but I think the focus is in South Africa, Cape Town, what is happening there. So I think the focus of the party is to fix South Africa first. If I hear you correctly. But I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Swartz. I'm going to ask you a question now, but I just want to go to Neil quickly. I just want to ask Neil's opinion. Neil, you have been in politics for many years, right? My question to you currently, like Dr. Jerome mentioned now, removing Israel's embassy, is that affecting our economy currently? And was that the right thing to do? Where do you parties stand on this? What is currently happening, removing the embassy, and also where do you stand with Palestine and Israel?
Salam. Good evening in our way. You know, Stan, I think you know me long enough. I don't know if I'm the only person on this platform. I'm looking at the leadership. I'm the only probable convicted terrorist, eh? I don't know. Is there anybody else that went through those trials? I'm just watching you quickly. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I was definitely a convicted terrorist. Everybody knows it. Ask Shamiman, eh? So number one, I was a convicted terrorist of the Republic of South Africa, serving in Umkhonto Wesizwe. Die boek is daar, jy kan maar gaan lees. Number two, I'm not seen as a terrorist by many. I'm actually seen as a liberation fighter by the majority. When we were convicted and sentenced to death for standing up for people that were oppressed, sien daar's 'n verskil, né? You can sit and blah blah and you can make tape recordings and punch away on social media. But the day that you've got to pick up an AK-47, a Tokarev or a Makarov, you've got to go walk and put a bomb because of your belief. Dan moet jy bietjie by my kom braai, hoor? Number 2, Sevis Pacem Parubellum. This is Latin. Anybody that has been in a conventional war like me, not in gangsters, not in little sites, I was in conventional warfare, fighting a war with tanks, bullets, and cannons for 22 years of my life. So when you want to talk war, now you are talking about my territory. You are very welcome. Just because a butcher sells his butchery doesn't mean that he stops eating bloody meat. Okay? Nelson Mandela, my president of the past, Nelson Rolihlahla, I don't know if you remember him, the man I served for most of my life, made it very clear. Now he made it very clear and you forgot. So let me remind you of those words of Rolihlahla Mandela. If Palestine shall not be free, then in no way can our country and our people be free. In 1998, I won't forget, Stan, 12th of August, that great year. Yeah, great year. Many of the old people here were still probably where. I'll tell you where I was. I was in Cape Town, sitting and awaiting a man called Yasser Arafat to rise and to walk into our new democratic parliament on the 12th of August 98 at 1 p.m. exactly. The leader of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, walked into the now democratic Republic of South. You were there? You were there. Sevis Pacem Parubellum means if you want peace, prepare for war. There are very clear statements for those that have been in war. People like me that led war. Now let me tell you, internationally when war comes, there are rules, Stan. This is easy. It is clear. We don't have to worry about the debate. There are rules of war. I've been in it. And those rules depict that even in war, even at the height of conflict, there are rules. And if you break such rules, hear me well, then you are confiding yourself not to conventional war, not to rules of war, but then, plain and simple, you are committing a crime. Are we clear? This is clear. When you attack and you fight and you go into a war, you always give what we call the civilian population, Wermay, I'm saying the civilian population, you give them something called détente. Détente means access to basic human rights and being civil. Secondly, stand to conclude, because I don't want to grasp, because I notice there are people here with much more information and much more credibility in this position. But the question is, you have to go to Gaza. You have to go to Palestine. No, you've got to go walk there. You've got to go to the West Bank. You've got to go to the Golan Heights. And you've got to go stand there. No, stand there. And see happening live. Benjamin Netanyahu is not just fighting a war. Hear me well, you'll probably hear this the first time. But does anybody here know who Benjamin Netanyahu's brother is? Stan?
I don't think so.
Oh, you don't know? Oh, okay. Yeah. You see, Benjamin Netanyahu's brother was a gentleman called Yoni Netanyahu. Yoni Netanyahu was the leader of the IDF group that attacked Entebbe Airport. Ooh. He attacked Entebbe Airport because he had to go free Israeli so-called prisoners in Uganda under the rule of Idi Amin. You didn't know? And here's the last one, Stan. Do you know who's the only soldier on that day of the attack on Entebbe? Do you know who's the only soldier that died? Yoni Netanyahu. So maybe sometimes when people fight a war, they don't just fight that agenda. So my ruling is clear. This war, which has become now a territorial war, and which has now become an invasive war, and which has now become, no matter side you choose, a terrible war. This war must now end, and Israel must now stop and withdraw and reach consensus of international law. It's a simple stand. That is my statement. That is my party statement. And yes, like many others, we would like peace, and the current ceasefire, we pray it holds. Thank you, Stan.
Neil, thank you so much. I just have a question for Kasim Parker. Kasim, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Neil mentioned something that he went to go fight. He went to go fight against the apartheid government. You as well, many people don't know this. You, Kasim, have been fighting for the people on the Cape Flats, and many people are saying the people that is marching, and this is the conversations and the talks on the street. People are doing nothing for the Cape Flats. You have sacrificed your life, Kasim. You have been in prison, and you have fought the fight. You came out recently. Tell us more about your journey supporting the Cape Flats and also supporting, Palestine as well. You have to go to unmute. Okay, you must go unmute. Kasim, you must press on the unmute button. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Firstly, I don't think this program, I asked earlier what the protocol is to interject, because I wouldn't like us to make this program the one about personal journeys and so on. Although we bring to a struggle our personal journey. So yes, you would be correct if you said I was imprisoned under the, something that resonates with me is that people make light of the detention without trial that the Palestinian brothers have to undergo. So yes, I don't want to talk about myself, but I've been in under the apartheid system in detention without trial, and in the New South Africa, imprisoned because of not for very long, not as long as Harun and Abdus, but for standing up against gangsterism and drugs. But I don't believe that's the issue today. What I feel is that, we've had the benefit now of some of the political parties saying their thing, and we want to say to ARA, for example, that yes, we have a crisis in South Africa. Crime crisis in South Africa is actually uppermost in the minds of people against gangsterism and drugs. That's why we are people against gangsterism and drugs. It's a shocking shame that the South African government is allowing this to happen. But we as the people of South Africa, and you know what, despite the fact that I fought, not me only, but lots of people, including Mr. De Beers, fought for the vote, the right to vote. I have yet to vote because I have not found a political party that is fit to be put into power. Now, blame me for having the DA in because I didn't vote against the DA. But please, if you have, and this is what I want to say to the ARA, us as man in the street, if you say to us, you are worried about what is happening in South Africa, then our acid test is, how can you tell us you are concerned? And this is what the general issue. How can you tell us you are concerned about South Africa when you are not showing that the very thing that makes South Africa tick or not tick is not disturbing you across the world, and that's racism. So racism was the issue in South Africa. Crime is the issue in South Africa now. But surely people of South Africa want to know, how do you as a political party view racism? And these are the things why us as people against gangsterism and drugs say we want to know from political parties, what is your take on racism? And that is why we say the DA has shown their colors. The PA have shown their colors. COPE has shown their colors. We know now that you will support racists, and we will therefore not support you. But when we have the kind of political parties that say, you know what, don't talk to us about something else, then it talks about the different breed of politicians that, similar to what the PA representative wanted to say earlier, that we are being politicians, and with due respect, hypocritical about it. That, you know what, if today you support the racists, we are with you. If tomorrow you support the liberation struggle, we are with you. We're not that kind of people. The person that we're looking for to represent this country is a person that says we are relevant. Now, lastly, when the person from AR said about the African people that don't have a say in the UN, you know what? The world tells us, is the feedback? The world tells us that we need to honor democracy. What a joke. On two levels. When the world wanted, when world governments wanted United Nations to take a position on Israel, the one bully, United States, says no, and everybody just has to abide by it. Now, you know what? If you were in South Africa and you voted, all the people voted for a certain party, and some person says, no, okay, guys, you've had your vote, but I say no, you can't have that party. Then we will criticize Zimbabwe. But we are allowing it ourselves because we say the United Nations is something worthwhile. The same story when a DA-based party or a PA party or a COPE party supports an Israeli government, that when the people of Gaza chose Hamas to represent them, it was the Israeli government that shut them down because they didn't choose the leaders that were suitable for the Israeli government. Now, with all due respect to Mbiza, I think, look, I thought that the PA would have had a better argument about racism and about apartheid. But I refuse to debate with a person who thinks that we must say that a person went there, their leader went there and didn't see apartheid. Well, in the years of apartheid in our country, you could also bring a leader because people here were white. You could also bring a leader and show them one area and say they are happy blacks and they will be happy. But this is obviously what the Israelis had shown him. But up to now, if he says he doesn't know apartheid, then I don't think that the PA has any authority to speak on this platform. And I say it with the utmost respect because, and lastly, this is not about Muslims versus Jews or Muslims versus Christian. It is about right and wrong. And, you know, we as people against gangsterism and drugs, when we say death to a party who subscribes to racism, it's because we hold this constitution dear. We hold it dear that it is a constitution that, not everything in the constitution, but those parts that God is happy with. And we say that certain anti-racism is important for us. As much as our primary goal is anti-gangsterism and drugs, we cannot turn a blind eye to the flagrant racism that is being perpetrated in Israel for many years, and we don't
Yes.
stop the struggle on the 7th of October.
Kasim, thank you so much for your point there. Noted. I just want to come to Councillor Aslam Kasim. I will have to add some of the other people just now. Councillor Aslam Kasim, you are a councillor from the city of Cape Town. My question to you would be, the city of Cape Town are supporting a two-state country. Do you support that as well? And do you think it will work? It's something that will work?
Stanley, may I just ask before the point of clarity, please?
Yes, sir.
How do we indicate?
Is it
if we-
Ubiza?
How do we indicate to you if we'd like to respond, especially when we are
Respond.
mentioned?
Okay. What we're gonna do is we're just getting everybody an opportunity. There is still time that we're gonna give you guys an opportunity. So please jot down your questions and your answers. I am gonna come back to you. I just want to go through everybody, give everybody opportunity, and then I will open the floor for half an hour, and then we can continue. Because we've got quite a few guests on the studio. Aslam Kasim, are you with us?
Yes, good evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Good evening. Okay, did you get my first question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, tell me it's related. You mentioned about the two-state solution.
That's correct, yes.
Was that the question? Yes. So
That was the
what the
question, yes.
parties think, what the party looks like at is that the international law that must be upheld. And obviously that when they look at that, is that there must be some credible plan for peace, which must include obviously the stopping of Israeli settlements in the West Bank. So for that two-state solution to be a reality, it should go back to the original boundaries that existed. So looking at the Geneva Convention, and that was to reaffirm those principles and make sure that the international law must be upheld. And I think we know different from any other party when they call for, for international law that must be upheld, because this is the one institution or the one entity that can wield authority and hold parties accountable. But once again, there need to be peace building, but it should be that it should stop those settlements and that encroaching on the land of Palestinians. They should stop encroaching on the land of Palestine.
Okay.
Mr. Aslam Kasim, I got one question for you. Does your party condemn the Israeli apartheid government as the lives of innocent Palestinian children and families are being mercilessly taken away?
The party condemns and stands in solidarity with Palestine and the Palestinian people for a sovereign state. So it's important that humanitarian aid and the rest, all those things should be seen freely, and it must be widely to the civilians. It shouldn't be that they are denied a right to gain access to these humanitarian aid and the like.
Okay, and can you give me some clarity? We've been seeing in the news that the mayor met with religious leaders in the Western Cape for peace. And we've noted that many organizations like the Western Cape Religious Leaders Forum, Cape Town Ulama Board, Muslim Judicial Council, and other churches were all left out of this. Was there any particular reason?
No, not at all. The person that liaises with the different organizations, they will ask within the city, do you know of recognized bodies and so on? And the city has a long-standing with organizations, especially faith-based organizations. The last time when we had engagements with the city was when there was particular complaints received when it came to issues of Adhan and so on. And the city engaged with organizations to make sure that everyone...
No, I get that point. Hence, the question is raised. Why were those organizations not invited? Like the Western Cape Religious Leaders Forum?
Everyone would be... if we had the contact details of all these organizations, it wasn't where only certain organizations were invited. In fact, we also as councillors were asked that, do you know any other organizations involved? And we would then convey the information as to organizations. If
you
an
as
organization
being,
that was missed out, it was not done so purposefully, because in fact, we want to have as much organizations as possible so that we can have that broad-based participation from
okay.
all
Since you are a
organizations.
Muslim counselor, did you tell them about the Muslim Judicial Council or the Cape Town Ulama Board?
Yes, about the Muslim Judicial Council. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone at the Ulama Board. I think it would be good for us to open up that
And
avenues of discussion
were
so
they
that we can include
invited to
them.
the Muslim Judicial Council?
There was, we had, what is this? We extended invitation to them as well. I know they were busy. I can't speak on their behalf, but I know they were busy with, they just had the recently elections and still busy sorting out the internal matters. So we have reached out to them as well. There wasn't a, you know, as I mentioned at the start, and I'll reiterate that we're not wanting to exclude any organization, because we want to make sure that we reach
Okay.
every
Thanks for
faith-based
clarity on
organization.
that. And just one more question for you before we go to the next person is, you as a Muslim counselor, how do you feel standing with the DA? Because as we know here in Cape Town, the DA is known as the Zionist party by the community and the public. How do you see yourself standing with them?
I think this the party has been maliciously mischaracterized, and especially I see this every election that's coming up. I want to say that we live in a Western democracy as a minority community. We don't live in a Darul Islam. If we lived in a Darul Islam, which is a solely Muslim community, it would not, I wouldn't say it's easier, but we would have one constitution, and that is obviously the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah. We live in a Western democracy. We are, in terms of the numbers, we are not a big number. And for us then to not get involved constructively in politics, someone else will be making decisions for us. And what we see is that we need to be involved in politics for something substantive to come for our communities. Because if we don't stand up for ourselves, we will be standing up for ourselves. So based upon that, and also because we're in a Western democracy, we are, there's this concept or this maxim of a khaffu dararain, you know, that you choose the lesser. You look at what is the maslaha, you see what outweighs the good from the mafsada, from the bad. And you're not going to have a perfect political party in a Western democracy. If it was in an Islamic country, it would have been a different situation.
No, I
But
don't
we're
think
living in a
anyone's
non-Muslim.
calling for an Islamic state here or something. I think it's more just about the human rights and standing up for Palestine and the people's concerns. If you see over social media, even I think currently comments are coming, the DA stance on Palestine is deliberately okay. Then there's quite a, but if you follow the comments also, it's negative towards the DA. I see one of your fellow councillors says the DA stance on Palestine is deliberately being misrepresented by political opportunists. So I'm saying apart from that, before like now, there was many people who was calling the DA the Zionist party, and they feel like the building at the Grand Parade was lit up for Ukraine, for other matters, but never for Palestine, where thousands of people are being murdered, bombed.
Yeah, we are gonna have to come back to Councillor. We are running out of time, but I want to give our other gentlemen also the opportunity, and then we also want to come back with giving everybody the opportunity to speak. I want to go to Anwar Adams. My question, Anwar, to you would be, you know, many people are making this a religious issue. It's Muslims against Christians. What is your take on this? Is this a religious issue? Is this a religious problem? Because from what I understand and from what I know and from what history teach me, in Palestine you also have Christians living there as well.
Good evening to you, Stan, and Said Ridwan, and all the listeners this evening. Before I address the question, answer the question, may I respond to some of the points mentioned by some of the panelists, if that's okay?
Yeah.
So the first point I want to address is by the man Biza from Patriotic Alliance. My question to him is, what peace is he speaking about when his leader is standing in front of Zionists, a group of Zionists in South Africa, and he's saying, "Hand Hamas." I quote, "Hand Hamas." That's what he said. That is the first point I wanted to bring. This is not peace when someone says "Hand Hamas." So when he's saying that they allow members in his party to say "Free Palestine" or they stand with Israel, that is a lie, because the party is not for peace. That's the first point. And then the point of the stance of neutrality that Biza and Jerome, who claims that they have a neutral stance. I would like to quote a saying from what's his name? Desmond Tutu. He said that if you are neutral in situations of injustice, then you have chosen the side of the oppressor. So these parties that claim neutrality, they are actually they have chosen the side of the oppressor. That's the reality on the ground. And then then I have another question to them. Why do you struggle to call Israel an apartheid state when our ruling party ANC, the human rights organizations like Amnesty International, have done thorough investigations into Israel, and they declare Israel an apartheid state? And then also, I'm hearing they mentioning they want to uphold international law, but international law and the United Nations, they declared the right and oppressed people to resist and occupy by any means necessary. So when we look at who Hamas is and who Israel is, Israel is an occupier, and the Palestinian people, they are oppressed. And so, according to if they say that they want to uphold international law, and then they must say that Hamas is a liberation organization, just like Mkhonto weSizwe. I think Neil de Beer was part of Mkhonto weSizwe, and on that point, Nelson Mandela, he was part of Mkhonto weSizwe, and he was classified as a terrorist. So when these parties say that Nelson Mandela, and when these parties say that Hamas is a terrorist organization, then we want the people to see the parallels between South Africa and Palestine. Nelson Mandela was only declassified as a terrorist in 2008. He was classified by only, I think it was about 5 countries: United States, Canada, France, and the European Union. So the last point I wanted to bring was that that Israel, they were the last country actually to openly declare that Israel was to openly declare that South Africa was an apartheid state. Up until the last, Israel upheld the stance that South Africa was an apartheid state. And then also the last point on just about the stats we got, we worked the stats out. So I think it's not fair to compare the stats from in South Africa to Gaza, because the population of South Africa is 60 million, and then the population of Gaza is 2.5 million. And when we look at the stats from October the 7th, in South Africa, there's 10 deaths per 1,000 people per year. And then in Gaza, 50 deaths per 1,000 per year. So while we note that, and we believe that all life is sacred, and a death of one person is wrong, Gaza is 5 times worse, and there's organizations here that oppose all injustice in the country. So that is the stats I wanted to bring and clarify the stats that one of the panelists are trying to bring. trying to bring. And then to the question about is this a religious struggle? I think when we look at it, there are many people involved in this solidarity struggle, in the solidarity spheres in South Africa and internationally. I think for some, for religious persons, it can be a religious struggle, and for non-religious people, it can be a humanitarian struggle, and some people can be both. Because when we look at we want to support Palestinians in the way that they want to be supported. So we can't, for example, there's Muslims who support the Palestinian struggle, Christians, Jews. So we can't remove. Then there's Palestine. In Palestine, there's Jews, there's Christians, and there's Muslims. So we can't separate religion. We can't say it's only a humanitarian struggle, it's only a religious struggle, because in Palestine there's a common chant that I'm sure most of the people on this panel know. Biruch bidam nafdika ya Aqsa. That means my blood and my soul is sacrificed for Quds, that's a holy land. So that's the point I wanted to bring, that we can't separate all the aspects to the Palestinian struggle. We can't say it's only for this group or that group. And that's I hope I explained it adequately, but that's my
Thank you. Thank you, Anwar. We're going to give over to Said. He will ask a question to Amir, and then I will allow us afterwards, after Amir, I think everybody got the opportunity, then we can cross question, and we have to keep it short, but we will be able to interact.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Amir?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and good evening to all of the respected viewers and to all of the panelists. I'm doing well, and I hope everyone is also doing well.
We see you dressed with your scarf and things, so we're assuming you're pro-Palestine from that. So we just want a quick question. When the thing started, people were speaking about Hamas and as terrorist people. So what do you have to say about Hamas?
Indeed, Bismillah, to begin in God Almighty's blessed name. I'd just like to indicate that I am a member of the Muslim Students Association, the MSA in short, at the University of the Western Cape. So naturally, of course, I'll be speaking as a Muslim student when I give my response with regards to this. And just as a brief history to the MSA, it basically started here in our country during the apartheid era as a means of fighting against injustice in our country, and of course making awareness for all the oppressed people across the globe. And today, we who are on the MSA today, more than 30-40 years after it basically was established here in our country, we basically the legacy of those who have come before us. So with regards to the question that was posed, if I got it correct from our respected host, is Hamas, what was the question regarding Hamas? If it is to be viewed as a terrorist organization.
Do you view them as a terrorist organization?
So any people who is part of any resistance movement fighting against any form of injustice can never ever be classified as terrorists, ever. God Almighty in our scriptures, in the Jewish scriptures, the Christian scriptures, and of course for us as Muslims in the Quran indicates that whenever you are met with any form of injustice, you have to basically ensure that you stand up against that form of injustice. As one of the great legends in the 20th century, one of the civil rights activists in the United States, none other than Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, rahmatullah alayhi, Malcolm X, indicated, by any means necessary. Because when someone basically traps down on you, basically, or chokes you, gives you a choke slam, as we would say in the WWE language, you are going to have to ensure that you counter that by any means necessary. You can't just take that. You can't just be bombed and say, okay, fine, all good and well, and just take on the beating any further. You have to stand up against it. And in this case, to put it into a brief context, we all know that what had happened here in this case leading up to the current affairs that is currently taking place, where we see the carpet bombing in Gaza by the corrupt Zionist regime, and of course the West aiding them and supporting them, and I apologize for my language, but the lackeys that are even found here in our South African context, and some of them even are amongst our circles, and we basically, continuing the propaganda on their part, when we see that they are continuing to only speak about what had happened on the 7th of October, that is being very dishonest. This has been going on for the past 75 years and more, where Israel basically took over the Holy Land as we know it, and up until today are perpetuating all forms of oppression unto the Palestinian people, killing thousands all over these decades, and not only since the 7th of October. So naturally so, after being bombed to smithereens, the churches, the mosques, all the places of education, even hospitals, as we've been seeing, not only happening since the 7th of October, but even before that, where the Zionists have continuously been bombarding the Palestinian people and those in Gaza. You can only imagine how the people of Gaza would respond, and they've indicated that in the form of Hamas, who is, as one of our esteemed previous speakers indicated, the legal authority and the body which the people of Gaza themselves have elected to be their representative and to stand up to resist on behalf of the masses who are in Gaza, which is sometimes termed to be the largest open-air prison. I don't like that largest open-air prison, that prison part, because prison is a place for criminals. Criminals are the people who are on the side of the Zionists. Our people in Gaza are no criminals at all. They are oppressed people, they are innocent people, and they are people of various faiths and denominations who are in that territory, who are basically being bombarded on a daily basis by the Zionist regime. We have to rather refer to it, as many academics indicated, the largest open-air concentration camp. And it is exactly what is going on, as has happened during the era of Nazi Germany and World War II. It's the exact same, and if not even worse, obviously, absolutely worse, is happening unto our innocent people in the territory of Gaza. So, of course, we can never ever say that anyone who is standing up against the oppressor are terrorists. And I don't want to use any terms or so forth, but of course, in this case, we clearly can see it as clear as daylight that it is Hamas that is doing the resistance work on behalf of the people of Gaza. We can never ever say that they are terrorists, because we will be doing a great injustice towards them and all oppressed people for that matter. Because if we're now going to call Hamas a terrorist organization, then we have to call the people who fought for our liberation, as our Honorable Mr. Dabir indicated, those who fought in Pontoisi's, when all the other liberation movements, we're going to have to indicate that they were also terrorists now when they were fighting for our freedom, and we cannot do that. And just to also emphasize this further, I would like to say the following with regards to just my thought in brief, to close off and conclude my thoughts on this matter based on also what I've heard from the other speakers. A great teaching inspiration of mine always quoted this following Arabic proverb, and it goes as follows, that the dogs will keep on barking, but the caravan will still keep on moving. I repeat, the dogs will keep on barking, but the caravan will still keep on moving. What do I mean and what do I imply by this? As we say in the Cape Town, in our Kaapse taal, jou vir jou in gedagte met 'n gedagte. So it is what I'm trying to do here. But just to give my point in the conclusion form as to what I meant by that saying, is that we have many dogs here in our midst. Some, those who are outrightly with the Zionists and on the side of the oppressor, who we know is the state of Israel. But some, unfortunately, who are even within our ranks, will never ever be able to say that Hamas is indeed the resistance movement that is fighting for the freedom of the people of Gaza and, of course, all of the people of Palestine. They will rather be like the schoolboys and all the people that want to go on like pre-primary school children in the Western media sphere. The first question they ask, do you condemn Hamas? Every time. Like we see in Piers Morgan and all these shows, do you condemn Hamas? Eerste vraag wat hulle vra, elke keer, do you condemn Hamas? No one asks first, you condemn Israel, the oppressor, for the atrocities. So with that said, I hope that there will be more voices of critical mass that will condemn Israel outrightly first, whether they be from the political parties or even from our own Muslims within certain political parties that are pro-Zionist. We have to say it as is. I hope that they can condemn Israel first before they come and deal with Hamas, because Hamas naturally is only trying to defend itself and, of course, be the voice of resistance and try and counter the injustices that is pervading. And, of course, as a Muslim, I also indicate many a times on every platform that we get that from a religious principle, we know what is unfolding in the Holy Land has been prophesied in our scripture, and of course in the words of our final prophet in the Muslim community, that is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who indicated that the Antichrist will rise. Dajjal, as we know in Arabic, will rise, and he will basically be the person that will be controlling the world, and his main mission is to deceive people. The Zionists, and of course, as we've been prophesied, Dajjal will come to Israel, he will rule the world from Israel and deceive many people in the world. And to put it into conclusion, the deception is not only happening in the Holy Land, where Israel can carpet bomb Gaza and make the resistance movements like Hamas look like the terrorists and they look like the innocent ones. But the deception is happening right here beneath our noses within Cape Town itself. And I say to everyone, thank you very much. And I hope we can
Thank you so much.
further
Thanks,
get
Shami.
involved in that.
Thank you so much. We're going to give everybody 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think we can have a 2-minute concluding remark
Yeah.
before we close off. So we can go on with Advocate Shamima.
Okay, 2 minutes is going to be too little, so that I took a little time at the beginning. But firstly,
Okay.
I think
We'll
that
give you your additional 2 minutes in that case.
Shukran very much. Firstly, I think that we all should really examine our hearts, our morals, our values, and our ethics. We have truly become hypocrites in our country. Imagine when South Africa was under apartheid and if Palestine had not assisted us and had not come to our aid. And I think many people doesn't know this, and many a person has forgotten this. If you are standing in a situation now where you say, what about South Africa? We're thinking about South Africa and you're forgetting about the help that Palestine has given you. I think that is an extremely selfish heart and individual who is just thinking about their own and not assisting the ones who has assisted us before. On the Cape Flats, how much help are we giving the people on the Cape Flats on a daily basis? Both the seen help and the unseen help. Indeed, our hearts are not that small that we cannot expand it to all over the world in order to assist others as well. And I'm not just talking about Palestine. We've also got a genocide happening in Congo. We've got a situation happening in Ukraine, in Russia. And what is the common factor in all these entities? Power-hungry individuals. And who is it? Who is the entity? It's the Zionists, the unlawful occupiers. They have not limited the land of Palestine. They've got their tentacles all over the world globally. And if we don't catch a wake-up call, we're going to be sitting, and we're already sitting with the very same situation right here in the Western Cape. Wake up. Economic oppression is already happening. The Zionists are right here between us, and the gentrification, etc., is already happening. Amongst my Muslim counselors, you need to catch a wake-up call. We have a responsibility towards our offspring, the offspring of our Christian brothers and sisters and Jewish brothers and sisters. It is not just about me, myself, and I, but we've got a duty as to what legacy are we leaving for our offspring. People keep not wanting to say this. Stop calling what's happening in Palestine a war and a conflict. Start saying it for what it is. Why are we all tiptoeing around the word genocide? It is a genocide that is happening in Gaza and in Palestine. Right now, as I'm sitting, over 20,000 has already been murdered in a space of what? 40 odd days. And we're talking about the Cape Flats in 3 months, which had an amount of over 6,000 murders. Here in South Africa, we can make the difference. How are we going to make the difference? We have the right to vote. We have the freedom. We have the freedom to make movement. We have freedom to make very pertinent decisions. We, as the people in Palestine and Gaza, do not have that same freedoms of being able to vote and make decisions. The decisions are made for them. They are limited and they are unlawfully occupied. Their apartheid is way worse than our apartheid. And I want to know, on this very site as we're speaking, how many of you have been to Palestine? How many of you have actually been able to go to West Bank, to Ramallah, to Jerusalem, to Jericho, and to so many other areas? You would have witnessed the apartheid walls. So don't tell me there's no apartheid in Palestine. Don't tell me you have never seen people stripped, held at gunpoint in Palestine, that you haven't seen the systems that is in place for apartheid, where people of Palestine is separated, where families are separate. So don't talk nonsense to me, Patriotic Alliance. Go back to Gayton McKenzie and ask him which part of Palestine did he actually go and visit. So that being said,
thank you.
I'll just end off quickly. I'm just saying one more thing. Viva Hamas, Viva Qasim Brigades, and Viva Palestine.
Thank you. Shukran, Shamima.
Thank you so much. We're going to remove you and we will add you again later on. Thank you so much. And we're going to go over to Yusuf.
Thank you
Yusuf
so
Mohammed?
much. I'd just like to take the opportunity just to clarify some misconceptions and things that have been said by some of the panel members. Because it was mentioned that the DA is a racist organization. the DA is the second largest political party in the country. The largest population within our country is Black South Africans. How do we become the second largest political party if we are a racist organization? We are a diverse organization. That is what we are. The second misconception that was also raised was that the DA receives money from Israel. Now, that is not true, because there was a law that was passed that you have to indicate your donors. The information is out there. Don't believe me. Don't check. Don't listen to me. Go and check it. You can see exactly who our donors are. And in fact, it is illegal to receive donations from another country for our political parties. So we do not receive donations from Zionists or the Israeli government. The other thing I think that just needs to be noted is my colleague from Jama-ah, she mentioned power. And unfortunately, when it comes to power, she's right. People will do whatever they can to hold on to power. They don't care how many lives are lost. They don't care what needs to be done to hold on to that power. So she shouted at the end, Viva Hamas, Viva Al-Quds Brigades. Now, Israel is currently also under attack from Hezbollah in the north, and they are also under attack from the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Now, I'm not going to take a position on that. I just want to make a point of this issue. That 9.2 billion rands worth of South African arms is being sold to Saudi Arabia to bomb those organizations. Yet Jama-ah feels right that it's appropriate to go into coalition with the ANC government in Johannesburg. So where we can make a difference, because right now we're sitting here in Cape Town, we're not there. I've tried. Many years ago, I've tried, and we were stopped at the Rafah border. What we can do in Cape Town is make real tangible difference. We can pick it, we can stand in solidarity with the rest of the world. And if you look at the footage around the world of all the protests in every country, we can do that. We've done it here in Cape Town. But I would like to propose something to every panelist here tonight. I have publicly about last month, publicly declared that I personally, as a DA, non-Zionist ward councillor, I am going to pledge 10,000 rand to humanitarian aid to the Gift of the Givers. I never mentioned the organization I was going to give to, but I've decided that the Gift of the Givers is the most appropriate organization to give money to. And I would employ my colleagues on this panel to also donate to humanitarian aid, because that's what we can actually tangibly do. We can sit every night and discuss this issue inside and out, but we're not going to be helping the Palestinians tangibly. What can help them is clean water, it's medicine, it's clothes, it's food, it's shelter. That comes from humanitarian aid. So I'm pledging 10,000 rand, and I'm challenging anybody else on the panel if they are willing to also contribute towards Gift of the Givers or the Al-Quds Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. Thank you so much. We're going to go over to Neil. We're going to give Neil an opportunity to also express and to conclude his conversation. And we need to just keep it a bit short because we have a few minutes left still. Thank you.
Yeah, Stanley, I stood yesterday in Strand where a 55-year-old mother was shot and gunned down in the Strand outside the school. When I went there, the principal said, "You know, Mr. De Beer, the shocking thing is we didn't know she was lying outside the school because the grass was not cut and we couldn't see the body." I want to tell the people here, this is the reality. Claiming SA first is not a publicity stunt. It's a reality. Stan, we've had how many programs here about South African death? But tonight we're not talking about that. We're talking about a country not far away where every day you can't deny the fact that they are taking out little bodies from concrete blocks. I'm a father. Ek's 'n pa van 'n kind waarvan ek weet 4. But if you're a dad, if you're a father, today I don't want politics to play the role. I want us to look at these things that we see, from both sides. People are trying to push their agenda on TV. You can clearly see it, the images we're getting. But Stanley, the images that I see sitting alone in my room watching is devastating. It is devastating. It is bordering on the total breakage of humanity. This conflict has come here. I said to Shamila, councillor, the other day, you can't deny it. When I listen to people that I do know, they might not say it, but I do know them, and I look at Haroon, I look at our members, and I know them, the fights they have. They are fighting here. But tonight is to say, what do we really look as a solution to a conflict that has gone on for 75 years? South Africa cannot live as an island, like a gentleman, a great Muslim gentleman told me the other day when I said, tell me what you feel. He said, Neil, when your finger hurts, it is still part of a body. You feel the pain. And I said, well, I hope that all South Africans here tonight, no matter where you come from, that we do dua tonight and for as long as possible, that peace will come, and that the children that we are burying without seeing, that peace will become on them, and we should stand up, I'm sorry, and we should take a stance, and that stance I declare tonight. There's been enough now. There's been enough. Further than today will never be explained to any reasonable person, in my opinion. So that is my thoughts. And I want to say to everybody here, we might all be different. We might be all coming from a different opinion. But one thing I respect about the people here tonight is that they came here tonight, they put their opinion, and they have the right, by the way, to voice such an opinion. Someone did fight for that right a couple of years ago, inshallah. Shukran, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, Neil. Afwan Neil, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to give over to Dr. Jerome. I'm going to allow Dr. Jerome to speak, and then we go over to Umbiza. We are almost done. Thank you so much for everybody. We are keeping it civil. I can say that we all participated, and everybody's opinion is noted. Dr. Jerome, over to you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
is that you can hear me, right? Thank you again. I want to say thank you to, I think what Neil said, everybody has got their own opinion. We appreciate that. We appreciate it from Ara. But again, we know we are going unanimous SA first. That's not going to change because another war is going to break out in Syria. By the way, there is a war taking place. And yes, I believe the UN has got a big part to play in bringing this to Palestinians. Kids being killed, just death in itself. It's not just about kids, any death, one single death.
Yeah.
Israel, at the same point, Israel is to blame. At the same point, Palestinians are also to blame. We can go back to 1918, the British to blame. But we do not believe, we talk about two-state solution, we believe in a one-state solution with that. If South Africa can do it with how many nationalities and different colors, there were bombings before. Bombings were taken out, and that's a complete different subject. There's no bombings in South Africa today because South Africa came together. There were many things that were done in South Africa that neutralized fear in South Africa, and this is what Israel is sitting with. So upon saying that, I want to say that one speaker said, "What we are talking about SA first? What have we done? We have done so much. We've actually had one of the biggest women movements in the Western Cape or that South Africa ever saw in August. We've done the rehabs. We've done this. When we talk about SA first, SA is in the crisis. We do value everybody's opinion, and we must be careful that if we're going to say this is this a religious war in Israel and Palestine, or is it a territorial war? Because if it's a religious war, we're going to face a different type of criteria. If it's a territorial war, which it should be, that must be solved. But it's not cannot be solved with war. There must be dialogue. There must be talk. There must be urgent talk. And we pray that this ceasefire should stop, not just for the next 4 days, but should stop in its totality. This is not about religion. Before we are Christians, before we are Muslims, before we are humans first. And it's inhumane, if you're a humanitarian, it is inhumane to kill anybody. You are first a human. And so again, with my conclusion, if you've got two houses, one house is your own, and both houses are collapsing, what will you do first? Do you solve your own house? Somebody said, well, South Africa is not in such a bad crisis. We are not looking for votes. We are not looking for pickpocketing or picketing for votes, as I believe some are doing, and everybody has the right to their own opinion. But South Africa is in a mess. This nation is crumbling. We'll become worse than Zimbabwe. The only reason why is because our population is bigger. And when you talk about stats, I think the gentleman is due right is maybe to look at some of the stats. There are many stats, and of course, yes, people make, but there are stats that people have given itself. So you can compare, if you want to compare between the 2.7 million people in Palestine compared to South Africa. If you do proportionately, we come to the same issue. We are sitting in a crisis. We are sitting in a mess. Upon saying that, in Israel also there is yes and no. So our issue, first of all, is we are solely SA first. Our colors in our Arab is a Shari's color. It symbolizes all the bloodshed in this nation, the blood for every human being. So our total goal is SA first. Upon saying that, I just want to say thank you. You know, we are parents, but we're first humans, and it is an issue that is taking place in Palestine and in Israel. There are three organs that are out to blame for it, and we must not overlook what is taking place in the rest of the world. You know, if you look at Bahrain, it's probably one of the worst humanitarian crises that has been going on for years now. There are so many countries, there are so many. And so Africa is in a mess. So thank you with it.
Doc, thank you so much for joining us and for making yourself available. It's really appreciated. Biza, I'm going to give over to you, and then after you, we will get Harun just to wrap up for us as well. Just 1 second for me. Okay, we just need to stick to the 2 minutes. We're almost running out of time. I do apologize, but I'm giving over to you, Biza, and you can then sit with us.
Stanley, I must register with you firstly that I'm very shocked that the PA, as I'm speaking on behalf of the PA, does not receive the same indulgence as the rest of the speakers. You now emphasize 2 minutes, yet statements were made about the party that I need to clarify, and then I conclude. So I need your indulgence.
You can do so, Biza.
So we expressed our geopolitical stance. There's a geopolitical stance that the PA has, and there's the local stance that the PA has. We were saying that when you look at the two parts that our party represents, everyone is able to share their views, but that makes us one party that stands for peace. We want to be peacemakers. And what that allows us to do is to hear both views. You heard from the pro-Israeli side and from the pro-Palestinian side, where they say they have a right to the land. The pro-Israeli side says they have the right to the land too, and they go right back up to the 722 BC, when they were invaded by the Assyrian Empire, the Babylon Empire after that, the Persian Empire, the Roman Empire after that, and then the Ottoman Empire. So they go further down and they stake a claim to that. And obviously they use the Bible as their title deed. And obviously the other side does not believe that to be legitimate. That's why we put forward to you the 6-9 principle. When you put a 6 there, the one on the other side, it looks like a 9, but who's wrong? So what we're saying is we need to come together, even in South Africa, both Muslims, both Christians, and we should say we stand for peace. We want peace in the Middle East. And what is wrong with that? And onto the questions, or rather the statements. I want to first start with Mr. Kasim. And I want to firstly recognize Mr. Kasim and the Honorable Mr. De Beer, who fought for our freedom. We must remember You are now no longer fighting a war, violent war, like you did before. How did that happen? You came around the table and there had to be talks. That's why we enjoy what we're enjoying now. So we're saying in the same breath, that's what we're calling for in the Middle East. Let us have the two parties come together and let us as South Africa be the model and the example of peace and bring the two parties together to find a two-state solution. That is our stance. And then the statement by Mr. Kasim that we are a racist party, we support racism. I want to clarify unequivocally. The Patriotic Alliance is not a racist party. We can't, as a matter of fact, we are the only party who's founded by 3 different races: a colored president, deputy president who is black, and also a white person, Charles Saliers, who was our head negotiator. There's no other party that's foundation is multicultural in that way. As a matter of fact, as a Busman Namas Koike, by the way, because Leo, I am a colored person. We as a colored leader, we are interracially infused. We are a biological prototype of racial integration. We have everybody in us. How can we look down on another race? So I want to discredit the statement made that the Patriotic Alliance is a racist organization and we support racism. We do not. It's not in our biological makeup to do that. And then to the speaker that said that our leader stood in front of a pro-Zionist group and he said, hunt Hamas. We were saying that our deputy president indeed stood and said, hunt Hamas, defend itself against a terrorist organization. That's the stance that he took. But he was not saying that just out of the blue. We have the son of one of the Hamas founders, Musab Hussein Yusuf, who puts that claim that he was reared within the Hamas organization and calls it a terrorist organization. So we were merely saying Israel as a sovereign state has a right to defend itself, but that doesn't mean Israel's hands is clean. So we condemn the killing of innocent Palestinians by Israel, and equally so, we condemn the killing of innocent Israelis by Palestine or through Hamas. We condemn it. We want and we call for peace. Our president stood in front of that same crowd, a pro-Israel crowd, and our president said emphatically, because we are not controlled by anybody, he said to them, we know you hate Palestine, but Hamas is not Palestine. Your fight is not against the innocent people of Palestine. It's against Hamas. Then we were said to be neutral and taking a neutral stance. We're not taking a neutral stance. We're taking a stance of balance, a perfect balance. This is very important. It's like when you go to the shower. There's one lever that has cold and hot water. You're going to use both, but you mix it so perfectly that you are able to refresh yourself in an enjoyable fashion. That's balance. It's not neutrality. It is a perfect mix of understanding both views and standing for, in this instance, standing for peace. We do not support apartheid at all. You want us to talk about the ANC defining what apartheid is, when in this country, the ANC is ensuring that we still experience forms of apartheid, together with the DA, 2013, the infamous bill that was passed, the Employment Equity Act, that really marginalizes colored people within this country. That's apartheid. So they don't have a right to define what it is and what it's not. I'm almost done. So we are saying, when it comes to our local stance, our local political stance is the Patriotic Alliance. We are not neglecting what is going on in the Middle East. We've expressed our geopolitical stance. We want to be peacemakers. We want happiness for both Palestinians and Israel. Locally, we are indeed saying that whilst we look at that, we should not look away from our local struggle, and we should not allow the Middle East struggle to divide us as a people. We must not look away from the fact that there are killings happening locally. A 25-year-old mother at Riebeck Primary School was shot by a stray bullet, was hit by a stray bullet, she died. A grade 8 young girl was shot 7 times in the face in Jama-ah. I live Mitchell's Plain now. The first week of me living there, I heard a few streets away from me that a guy's head was cut off. These are also important things that we should look at locally. So I end off by saying, as the Patriotic Alliance, we condemn the killing of innocent Israelis, and equally so, we condemn the killing of innocent Palestinians. The war must stop. We must fight a war to restore. We must be peacemakers, and we should have a two-state solution for the Middle East. And locally, we must stand together and fight the war against what we are experiencing here locally, because we don't have water in certain places. Our children are dying.
I agree.
And it's time for us to stand together, both Christians and Muslims. Salute, Faizan.
Bisa, baie dankie. Ek waardeer dit. Dankie. Haroon, are you still there? You just have to go
still
unmute.
here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Okay, thanks, man. Yeah, a lot has been said, but we need to put things in perspective. People are speaking about peace. PA is speaking about peace. The DA is speaking about peace based on a two-state solution. A two-state solution can never become a reality for the Palestinians, and we must never accept the narrative that a two-state solution is going to work in the Middle East. We outrightly say, and many other political parties and organizations and throughout the world are contesting a two-state solution. We say that a two-state solution can never be the reality. Based on what are we saying this? We base this, if I've listened to the DA, Mr. Qasim, saying that they are speaking of the, what was it, he was made reference to the Geneva Convention. You know, if you look at these things and if you look at the Balfour Declaration at that particular time, what was the majority of people in the land of Palestine? There was a minority of Jews, minority of Jews and Christians living there. The majority was Muslims, and they lived in peace and harmony in those years. But because there was a strategic, a well-orchestrated plan to move in to a systematic invasion, we would say, within the lands of Palestine. And now they want to come and say that they have a right over these lands. They never had a right. And that right, they have forcefully made the world to believe that the Zionist state of Israel has a right in Palestine, which they never had. And as long as we are breathing, and as long as people of consciousness and people of God consciousness are alive, the concept of a two-state solution will never become a reality in our lives, and they must understand this. Even if it means that we must stand up against the proposal again and again and for years to come against a two-state solution, people in this country and the world will do that, because the land of the Palestinians belong to the Palestinians. It doesn't belong to Israel. Israel never had a land. So what are they talking about, a two-state solution? They need to go and do their history, and they need to ask themselves, what two-state solution? What land have you stolen? And now you want the right over land that you have stolen. That can never happen. We must say emphatically to those who are promoting and asking for this, that please, if you are not going to stop asking for this two-state solution, we're going to see bigger problems in the country, because peace can never come when there's an injustice in the world. And this is exactly what is happening in Israel. There's a great injustice in the world, and especially in the lands of Palestine and Al-Quds. And we're saying, if this injustice is not going to be opposed by the rightful people of Palestine, which was elected, as one of our brothers has said, elected people, political, that was elected by the Palestinians and is recognized in the whole world as a legal entity, which is Hamas. And we say we must support Hamas, and we say we support Islamic Jihad, we say we support Hezbollah. We must not be apologetic to that. And if they want to say that the people supporting this are terrorists, then we need to relook and understand what the word terrorism means. Because if we speak of terrorism, Israel and the Zionist state of Israel, they are currently the biggest terrorists, because as Shamima has said, there's a genocide happening and everybody is silent about it. And in conclusion, Brother Stanley, I want to say to the Muslim leaders and political people that belong to political parties, the narrative that you want to shove down our throat, that we are a minority in this country and we are not a majority of Muslims. Please come on, re-look at your history and re-look at the Quran and the lifestyle of the Prophet, because nowhere in this sacred book that we speak of is there a geographical space to pick up arms or to stand up for justice or to speak against injustice or to stand for the rights of humanity. So we are asking them, re-look at your position, because this narrative has been coming on for many years, where they are saying we are a minority and we don't have a right. And because of certain discussions within the framework of the Sharia, or the Islamic law, they are looking for a loophole because they are saying we are a minority. Only when a leader or a political party is just in a country do we as people of consciousness, then we have to follow them. When our leader is unjust, and we say this to all political parties, we're saying it to the DA, we're saying it to the ANC and the ruling party, if there is an injustice in that party, we have no right to say that we must follow that party. If the leader and the ruler of that political party is a just ruler, even if he's a non-believer, we must then say we can follow him. But we have seen the injustices that they, the ANC and the DS, perpetrated against our very own people. So we are asking of those political parties who is calling for a two-state solution, and we're putting emphasis on this because this is the narrative that they want us to believe and they want us to accept. We refuse to accept the narrative of a two-state solution, and we oppose the narrative of a two-state solution because this can never become a reality for our people in Palestine. One last thing, and I have to say this for the record, and unfortunately your PA guy is not going to come back, but I hope he's listening. You people are speaking about peace. In your 10-year commemoration that you held recently, you're speaking of peace. You are speaking of withdrawing the oxygen of the foreigners in this country. That is ethnic cleansing. And maybe you should really look at what your party stands for, because this is what they said. They said, we must remove the oxygen of the foreigners of this country so we can deal with them. This is ethnic cleansing. If you want to remove oxygen, which obviously you don't have the power to do it, and they must be careful that the oxygen that they are breathing in the supply of their oxygen doesn't get up, because then they're not going to be able to have a voice to speak for themselves or defend for themselves. So please, when you speak of peace and you speak of justice, you cannot make statements like, let's pull the plug of oxygen on the foreigners in this country to deal with these problems. And unfortunately, I don't think they'll get a time now to respond, but we have to challenge political parties who think they have a right to confuse us and use words and use semantics to play around with the minds of the believers and people in this country wants to stand up for justice throughout the world. We thank you, Brother Stan, and the panel that has joined us. It's a great opportunity that we could share this platform, but we hope that we can carry on the conversation at another time. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you so much. Walaikum salam. Anwar, I'm going to give over to you, and then we're going to go to Kasim Parker, and then we'll end up with Amir. So yeah, I'll give you guys 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We just have some short closing remarks. The one point on being SA first. Being SA first doesn't mean that you can't care about people suffering atrocities in other countries. That is the one point. And then we believe that there's more that we as South Africans can do as a country. And when these politicians claim neutrality and support Zionism, it actually enables a genocide in Palestine, because if we as South Africans stand united, we can isolate the apartheid state. So we ask the politicians simply to stop playing with the lives of innocent people. Put your pride and your greed aside and your ego aside and your lies aside, and just stand for justice. That's our closing remarks. That's all that we ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Anwar. Thank you for keeping it short and sweet. Brother Kasim, over to you.
Thank you, Stanley, and the listeners. I have a few points. Many things have already been said, but just one or two things. Well, not one or two. My list is two-state solution. We in South Africa know what a Bantustan is, and a two-state solution is no different to a Bantustan. For those who supported the Bantustans, they support the two-state solution, and therefore we are on different sides of the line. The DA is a racist party. Those in the DA will say they're not racists, but so did the National Party, who had apartheid in South Africa. The councillor who earlier wanted to pledge money and wanted to put a challenge to the other panelists. Oppressors can't dictate the terms. And if you form part of the DA, you form part of the oppressor. And you know what? Yes, we can do something. We, as people against gangsterism and drugs, would like to see ourselves as part of the axis of resistance worldwide, including in Palestine. And if Hamas welcomes us aboard, we would be so proud. If Hezbollah welcomes us aboard, we would be so proud. And we wish to be the local agents of Hamas and Hezbollah, so that we can see that when those who wreak havoc and injustice in Israel come back here to what they think the comfort zones, that they can see another Hamas here, so that when we see how to stop this genocide, it is to see that their comfort zones are not going to be so comfortable anymore. And when we say people must think about decentralizing the struggle, this is what we're talking about. Because certainly the people who pushed for the apartheid state couldn't go other places in the world and just walk around safely. And we say our reciprocation of that must be that South Africa cannot be the safe haven for racists. It is surprising that the councillor earlier said the city of Cape Town does not have a position. But when people took to the streets yesterday to go and see the lights and went with the Palestine flags, several of them were stopped by the police, who are the city police that are instructed by the city. So therefore, maybe to the other councillors, the DA is obviously in charge, and the DA is going beyond their duty, beyond their call, in order to instruct the police to go and do what they claim is not the policy. Lastly, I want to say, occupation is occupation. We make a clear distinction between right and wrong. There can be no similarity between the occupier and the occupied. There cannot be a situation where you say the oppressed and the oppressor have equal rights. The oppressor has lost their rights when they started oppressing. The occupier has lost his rights when he occupied. And therefore, we stand fully behind Hamas, Hezbollah, and the rest of the resistance movement to say, you go and you liberate Al-Aqsa, you liberate Palestine so that the racism can stop. I thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kasim. Amir, you are the last one standing. We're going to give over to you to just end for us. Thank you so much for being so patient.
Indeed, I'd like to thank our respected hosts and all the panelists, and most of my points was covered, but just two that I would like to give over to the panelist from ARA. And he indicated South Africa first. Yes, we can agree to a certain extent. However, what is happening in the Middle East, and specifically between the oppressor, which is Zionist Israel, and of course the innocent Palestinian people, what is unfolding there is impacting us in South Africa, whether it be socially, politically, but especially economically. So if we truly want to put South Africa first, then we have to make sure that what is unfolding there in the Middle East will basically be, coming to an end. Because whatever happens there from the side of the Zionists and all the other parties coming to play, our oil prices rise, the various commodity prices rise, and that of course impacts us as South Africans. And as Mr. De Beer indicated when a Muslim leader informed him about that famous narration of our Prophet, peace be upon him, when he said that if one part of the body feels pain, the entire body feels a pain. So we can't exclude ourselves as South Africans from the suffering that other people go through. And of course, to the other leader from the Patriotic Alliance, the Patriotic Alliance, I would just like to indicate that those points is very, very, misplaced from his side, and time does not go into allow to respond to all of them. But as Anwar already covered the point, we cannot be neutral in times of difficulties like this, and they have to be clear-cut. My last point is to the leaders, Mr. Mohammed and even Maulana Qasim from the DA. They even indicated that, as our host indicated, why don't they have there by the city hall the Palestinian flags colors being put up, just like the Ukrainian flags colors would put up? We're told by Mr. Mohammed that it is a polarizing issue currently to have the Palestinian flag there up because of all the debates. The same argument can be made then for Ukraine and Russia and what happened there. How come did Ukraine's flag then get preference over the Palestinian people? And the Palestinian people are actually the oppressed people, and we can see it as clear as daylight with the genocide happening there and the carpet bombing that is currently taking place by the oppressor Israel. And to put it into conclusion once again, we see deception happening not only in the Holy Land by the oppressor Israel, but the oppression and the injustice of the oppressor Israel is infiltrating right throughout the world. And many of the people that spoke here on behalf of the Zionist entities are basically continuing with that deception here in our country. And we, as people of conscience, irrespective of faith, have to ensure that we stand up against any form of injustice, irrespective of the price we must pay. We cannot be selective. And to put it into conclusion, soos ou mense gesê het in die Kaap, ons dag en nag prate moet dieselfde wees. Ons dag en nag prate moet dieselfde wees en nie dieselfde nie. Thank you very much and baie termakasi for your time and baie dankie vir al die mense van die Kaap.
Thank you. I just want to say, if people are, some of our contestants or panel members want to come back, I think we have run out of time. I would like to have them back. You can clarify this. I think we can't just end it here. I think we need to continue with this conversation. So, Mbiza, I see your message there. Everybody's going to jump for me. There's more people of the panel members that want to come back. I can't give you a minute now because we're over our time. It's 2 hours already. However, I'm willing to meet with you guys next week, and I'm willing to chat with you guys next week as our time is running out. I just want to say thank you. I just want to thank you, everybody that was part of this podcast. Let me just read out the names. I want to say thank you to Dr. Jerome Swartz from ARA. I want to say thank you to Harun Ori and Qasim from PAGAD. I want to say thank you to Neil De Beer from the UIM, Advocate Samima Shali from Jama-ah, Anwar Enams from UCT PSF, Aslam Qasim and Yusuf from City of Cape Town. Thank you for coming out. Mbiza from the Patriotic Alliance, thank you for making yourself available, and Amir Adams for being here, and then also for yourself for being with me tonight. I think this is a difficult topic. That was difficult.
As you could see from having so many people on the panel, I think that was one of the issues we faced. But as we said, that this is the start to it, and maybe the discussion can continue.
Yes, it can continue. So I would like to invite you over next week. Let's put it out. If you want, we can do so. Let me know, but I'll leave it in your hands. Thank you to our listeners. The comments wasn't that bad. Normally you will get swear words in this comment section, but I think I want to say thank you to our listeners, our viewers, those that were part. There was a few disagreements, but I want to say thank you to all of you guys for putting in the necessary effort to be part of this conversation. I do say thank you to our panel once again, and you are welcome to join us next week. 2 hours is all that we have for the show. Anything else?
Okay. Thanks to all the listeners and viewers, all the panelists, and thanks to Stan for bringing me in here today. I think because it just assumed it's a very difficult topic, but we appreciate everyone's input, opinions, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you so much. And remember, this is this is people's opinions, and I want you guys to follow the individuals. They are approachable. You can approach them and maybe ask them the questions maybe that we didn't ask tonight. So from my side, I want to say thank you so much to everybody that was part of this conversation, and we will be back soon if you guys are keen to have a chat with us again. Thank you so much. I just want to get my closing button here because I see I can't close. Let me just do this quickly. All right. Thank you so much, guys, and we will be back and have an awesome evening. Cheers.